recordings later on. And without further ado, let's get started. I have pleasure in giving the floor to my dear colleague, Michelle Julian. Michelle, please.
Thank you very much, dear Cordula. Very pleased to be with you. And let me just start sharing my screen. And please tell me when you see it.
Yes. Michelle,
That's okay.
good to go. Yes.
Excellent, excellent. Very pleased to be with you, with the audience, with the esteemed colleagues, to share the latest tourism results based on the May barometer, which includes, of course, results for the first quarter of 2025.
Yes, we can
see my screen.
Yes, we can see the screen.
Excellent. So let's first recall some key figures about international tourism. In 2024, international tourism reached 1.5 billion. That's the same number of international tourist arrivals or overnight visitors in 2019, which was the pre-pandemic year. But also, international tourism generated export revenues of amounting to 2.0 trillion US dollar. That's 15% in real terms more than in 2019 when it reached 1.7 trillion. And this is also very important because total export revenues, they represent about 6% of the world's total exports of goods and services and 23% of global trade in services. That makes international tourism a powerful engine to create jobs, to create socioeconomic opportunities, in particular for women and young people, and of course to generate revenues for the balance of payments of many countries, both advanced and emerging economies. But last but not least, we also have the economic contribution of tourism to the GDP, which amounted to 3.4 trillion in 2023 and reached the same amount of 2019 levels. When we see the recovery of international tourism, we see that there is a sustained and full recovery in 2024 after 4 years since the worst crisis ever suffered by tourism, which was, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. International tourism shows sustained travel demand at the start of 2025, despite growing geopolitical and trade tensions. And we see that in January, March 2025, international tourism grew by 5% compared to January, March 2024. So international tourism kept momentum at the start of the year with over 300 million tourists traveling internationally in the first quarter of 2025. That's 14 million more than in the same period of 2024. Of course, we started with a very strong January and more modest growth in February, March, partly due to a calendar effect since Easter fell in April this year compared to March last year. And in addition, in February, we had one less day compared to leap year 2024. So results were a little bit mixed among regions, as you can see on the screen. Asia, the Pacific continued to rebound strongly, though still remain below pre-pandemic levels. Africa with 9%, so strong growth, while the Americas, Europe, and the Middle East show more modest results, though positive, in the first quarter of 2025 compared to the same period of 2024. If we have a closer look, to Europe, we see that, of course, we have to, and as you know, Europe is the world's largest destination that welcome 125 million international tourist arrivals in the first quarter of 2025. That's, of course, 2% more compared to Q1 2024, or 5% more if you compare it to the same period in 2019. But if we see the performance by sub-region, we can see that Central and Eastern Europe rebounded strongly with 8% growth over the same quarter of 2024, with a special robust performance for Baltic destinations. Though, of course, visitor numbers in the sub-region as such remain still slightly below pre-pandemic levels. Then we see Southern Mediterranean Europe with plus 2%, with many destinations also recording strong results in arrivals, which means that also an increasing number of travelers are opting for off-season also travel to many Southern Mediterranean Europe, which is good news. And then, of course, more modest results in Northern Europe and Western Europe in the first quarter. Of course, we need to also point out that EU27, which is not here because it's not a sub-region, but it's a grouping, recorded or saw an increase of 3.2% in international arrivals in the first quarter of 2025. But it's important also not only to talk about arrivals, but also to talk about the income generated by those arrivals. And then we see that across the years, we see a faster recovery of receipts in real terms that's adjusting for inflation and exchange rates. If you compare it to the increase or the recovery in arrivals, even in 2024, we see an increase of 15% globally of international tourism receipts compared to some 0.1% in 2024 in arrivals, which is very interesting because that means that visitor spending is increasing in many destinations, and also that despite high inflation in services, we witness some stronger than expected spending in many destinations, mostly in Europe and the Americas. The average spending per trip remain at some $1,170 US. That's in constant dollars. It's above the $1,000 on average that we saw in 2019 before the pandemic, which is also interesting to note. And this is, of course, partly due to the strong visitor spending, but also to the strong travel demand from many source markets. But if we see also the inflation rate, and we have developed recently a new indicator on to be able to measure tourism inflation, with including prices in transport, accommodation, and restaurants. And we see that the tourism inflation, to use it as a proxy of what is happening, with prices in tourism, they ease a little bit moderately to 8% in 2024, but still exceeded the 5.7% of the headline inflation in 2024. Let's recall that inflation in services still remain high by historical standards. If we have a look also to Europe, we also see that receipts have grown faster than the decrease in arrivals. For example, if we see the increase in receipts, and there's a total of 670 billion euro, that's a 20% increase over 2019 in local currencies at constant prices. And if we see, if we compare it to the arrivals received by the world's largest destination, which is Europe, it amounted to 756 million. That's a little bit over 50%, over half of the world's total arrivals. That's welcomed by Europe. If we have a quick look to the best performing destinations in Q1 2025 over 2024, for instance, we see some South American destinations such as Paraguay, Brazil, Chile, but also European destinations such as Israel, and Asian destinations such as Vietnam and Japan, posting very good results in the first quarter of 2025 over 2024. But if we see the same results over 2019, we see also a strong growth, cumulated growth by Qatar, by Albania, which is a rising star, or Saudi Arabia in the Middle East, or El Salvador, which is a smaller destination in Central America. If we take a closer look to Europe, and in the first quarter of 2025, we see, and we already mentioned Israel, but also smaller destinations such as North Macedonia, or Baltic destinations such as Lithuania, island destinations also such as Malta, and other destinations in Northern Europe or Central Eastern Europe, recording very good results in the first quarter, of 2025. And if we compare it to over 2019, we see that Albania also has posted strong results, a strong performance, followed by the Republic of Moldova, and Malta, Norway, Serbia. Tourism is benefiting many destinations across Europe, even in larger destinations such as Greece or Portugal. But if we see the receipts, which is also extremely important, we see that also in the first quarter, we have South American destinations such as Paraguay and Chile, or Asian destinations such as Japan and Vietnam, posting also very good results over 2024. But we also have European destinations such as Norway or Latvia or Israel, or even Spain and Turkey, which are also large destinations, so benefiting both smaller and larger destinations in Europe. And if we see also some numbers over 2019, we see Serbia in the second place after Saudi Arabia, and Norway also. I will not go through the whole list because we don't have time, but just to say that many destinations across Europe have recorded strong results in receipts in the first quarter, and that's also very important, fueled, of course, by strong also demand from those large source markets all over the world. If we ask, this is looking ahead, what will be the performance in 2025? If we ask our UN Tourism Panel of experts, what will be your prospects in 2025? we have that some almost half of the experts think that 2025 will be better or much better than 2024. Some 31% thinks that it will be the same performance, and some 18%, or let's say 20%, consider that it will be worse or much worse. This is good, but this is slightly less bullish than the January also survey, which was a little bit above 50% in terms of better prospects. And of course, if we see the main challenge that international tourism will face in 2025, and this is according to the responses from those experts represented both public, private sector all over the world. Of course, we see that still economic and geopolitical headwinds, they pose significant risks to the sustained recovery of tourism, to that confidence also and sentiment. And we see that the latest panel of tourism experts survey points to other economic factors, including weak growth, high transport and accommodation costs, and the recent increase in trade tariffs as the main challenges that could impact international tourism in 2025. Of course, this can have a weight, or this can weigh on consumer confidence, which comes as fourth major concerns, and the uncertainty derived from the ongoing geopolitical conflicts and other geopolitical risk and trade tensions that are also weighing on travel confidence. And last but not least, just to mention three important factors, which are the travel requirements, the staff shortages, and the extreme weather events. And we just witnessed one of the hottest June on record in Europe. So this is very important to take into consideration also for prospects in 2025. And as we see, the UN Tourism Confidence Index, and this is also according to the responses from the survey in May 2025, the latest Tourism Confidence Index points or reflects cautious optimism, because there's a score of 114, which is positive, but it's less than the 130 that was allocated or rated by those tourism experts in the same period of 2024. So prospects for May, August reflects rather cautious optimism, of course, because of the uncertainty derived from the ongoing political tensions, geopolitical tensions, trade tensions, and also the economic factors. Despite all this uncertainty and unpredictability raised by those experts, we estimate that the travel demand will remain resilient in 2025, and international tourist arrivals will grow by 3 to 5%. This is our estimates that we did in January, and we keep our estimates unchanged for the remaining of 2025. Of course, if you want to have more information and to visualize this data, you can go to our UN Tourism data dashboard, which has been recently revamped, and you can find indicators, you can benchmark your destination. So I invite you to use that tool if you have done it, if you haven't done it yet, and see what are the different, usage that you can make out of it. This is, for example, an image of or a screenshot of what you can find in that dashboard with arrivals, with receipts per arrivals, and other indicators along, the tourism industry. And with that, I'm finished, and I hand it to you, dear Cordula. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, dear Michelle, for all the insights and the data you shared with us. This is the traditional UN tourism data that we are collecting since many, many years from our member states that are now modernized also thanks to the dashboard to which all the member states have access and which are also published on a regular basis in a publication that we call the Barometer. And Michelle is the leading expert in all of that. Thank you very much, Michelle, like always, for this. And for the important work that you are doing for the organization and for our member states. With this, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends, I have now pleasure in giving the floor to Mrs. Veronica Gonzalez from our dear and very important partner, Amadeus. Veronica, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Cordula. Thank you. It is an honor for me to be here with all the different members representing the European region, and even more after hearing Michelle talking and illustrating that the member states that you represent receive 50% of the international world arrivals. So my bow to you, you are doing amazing, and I'm happy to share with you today the result of a report that we have produced together with you and for you. So let me share the screen and make sure everything works well. Right. So thank you again for this opportunity. And if I can move the slides, that would be fantastic. But they don't want to move. Ha. Do you see that my program is restarting?
Yes, we see that. Let's see what's happening now. Okay.
It's the beauty of the live events, so.
No worries, all going to be fine.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So before I get started with all the straightforward data that we have prepared for you, let me tell you where we are positioned as Amadeus and the travel intelligence team and solutions. So we are basically sitting at the center of the travel ecosystem. So we have capabilities of gathering data and convert it into actionable data-based insights across the whole end-to-end traveler journey. So from inspiration to travel and post-travel, we are capable of bringing good insights that you can translate into business opportunities, helping you to unlock new business revenue streams or to improve your results. So with all the data that we have access to, we have prepared this. And to get us started with, let me give you a positive flavor. So we've been looking at the last 12-month data. And when we look at hospitality market indicators, we normally look at two very big indicators. The very first one is occupancy, and second one is average daily rate. What you see here in the chart is we look at the world evolution over the last 12 months. You see it has been positive, and occupancy plus 1.1 percentage point. But Europe remains above the average with a 70% average occupancy ratio. And you will see in the following slides how each of the regions are performing versus this indicator. And you will see there are positive insights as well. When we look at average daily rate, and despite the inflation that Michelle was sharing before, we see also positive insights. Well, more than despite, thanks to the inflation as well. So when we look at the world evolution, it's positive plus 1.8 percentage points growth, and Europe is above the average with almost 180 euros average daily rate. And again, I will deep dive into each region performance and you will see how you guys are evolving there. When we look at air traffic, we look at passenger bookings. And the first part of the chart is over the last 12 months, what we have seen. And overall in Europe, it has been a positive growth, plus 6.7%. And towards the end of the year, we still see a positive forecast as well. So I'm now entering into the deep dive by region. And in here, I'm going to go through the same structure over and over again. So I will start with air passenger data and then deep dive into what are the origin markets for your particular region. But I will be comparing what is the desire, so people who are looking for your destination versus what is the reality, meaning people that are traveling, what is their origin country. Then we will look into what are the top growing origin markets, again, comparing searches versus travelers. I will show data about lead time, how much in advance the people from those origin countries are booking your destination, and demographics. And I will then finalize with hotel occupancy and ADR information. And again, this is going to be region by region. So I hope you really find it interesting. So starting with Central and Eastern Europe, if we look at air passenger volume, you see here that for the last 12 months, the year-over-year growth has been 12.2%. And we have positive forecast moving on. Where do visitors come from? And in here, we start comparing where the people are searching from and where the people are coming from. So basically, when we look at searches, we find very big changes, like China becoming the top 4 origin searching for Central and Eastern European destination. That is the biggest change to highlight. Then we look into top 10 origin markets traveling to Central Eastern Europe, and you will see that the top 3 origins, I would say up to top 5, remain the same almost as the last year, and no big changes here. So even if we have new countries searching for Central Eastern European, still the top 10 origin markets remain very stable. So, but what other countries are now looking for your destination or traveling to your destination? What you see here in this screen is the top 10 origin markets that are growing a lot versus the previous year, right? So on the left-hand side is searches. You see the number 1 is China, followed by Saudi Arabia and India. Those are the fastest growing ones. If we go to the right, we see the top 10 origin markets actually traveling to Central Eastern Europe that have grown the most over the last 12 months. Again, we see here China as number 1, Saudi Arabia and India. So it's almost the top 3 corresponding to the ones searching. This is good news here. Even if they don't make it to the top 10 origin markets, they have grown a lot. So it's important that you have concrete strategies to attract travelers from these origin countries. So what type of visitors are traveling to Central and Eastern Europe? What we have looked at is the lead time, and we see that most bookings, up to 30%, were made within the 1 to 7 days before departure, showing a clear preference for last-minute travel planning. When we look at the age groups, we see that the 46 to 65 age group consistently holds the highest share of bookings across all regions, indicating it is the most travel-active demographic across Central and Eastern Europe. Hotel occupancy and on the books. So what you see up to this vertical line is past data, and then to the right you have forward-looking data. So the darker line is Central and Eastern European average, and then we have highlighted the top 3 performing markets, so you have a sense of it. So basically, yeah, what you see here is that the average is around 60%, going a little bit up or down as an average, and then you have Poland and Hungary that are performing consistently above the average, and then Czech Republic that is crossing up and down depending on the month. If we look at average daily rate, what we see here is that the average is close to $150, and then we have different regions like, the same countries that we highlighted in the previous slide. So the Czech Republic is constantly above the average, as well as Hungary, and then Poland is close to the average, crossing the line up and down a little bit. Northern Europe, same information, same structure. So air passenger volume, what you have seen here is last 12 months, there is a positive evolution, plus 4.3 year over year. But we see that we are seeing the lines crossing right in April. So we would need to monitor very closely to see if we still have positive forecast, or it's very close to what happened last year. Where do visitors come from? So top left, on the left, top 10 origin markets searching to travel for Northern Europe. So the top 3 remain stable. Well, I would say the top 7 remain very stable to last year, with United States, United Kingdom, and Spain being the top 3. The 2 ones that need to be highlighted that made it to the top 10 list are China and Norway. If we look to the right, we have top 10 origin markets traveling to Northern Europe. So top 1 and top 2, Norway and United States, remain stable. And then we see small variations, but very stable on the rest of the list, and Italy coming to the top 10. These are new or the highest growth origin markets that should be in your radar. So on the left, searching countries. So China is number 1, growing by 150%, followed by Japan, Saudi Arabia, Norway, and Germany. If we go to the right, which is the top 10 origin markets that are actually traveling to Northern Europe and with the highest growth, we see Japan in the number 1, followed by Saudi Arabia, Ireland, Poland, Italy. What type of visitors are traveling to Northern Europe? So most passengers, 25%, booked their trips 61 to 180 days in advance, showing early planning. And the 46 to 65 age group leads bookings across all destinations, making them the primary audience for Northern Europe travel. If we look into hotel occupancy, again, left side is past, right side is forward-looking data. What we see is the occupancy, the average occupancy ratio in Northern Europe is very high, is close to 80%. And then we see some countries like United Kingdom that have performed above the average, but forward-looking data is very close to the average. And then Ireland started a little below the average occupancy ratio, then it went up. And then Sweden and Norway that are there playing below the average, but let's see how they perform on the forward coming months. If we look at average daily rate, again, here we see that the average daily rate is slightly above $200 for the first part of the chart, and then going a bit below. And we see United Kingdom a little bit up of the average and very stable. And then our line that it's playing with the line, and again, Sweden and Norway a bit below. We are moving into Southern and Mediterranean Europe information. If we look at air passenger volume up to April, comparing to the previous 12 months, the results are positive with a 7.7% year-over-year growth, and forward-looking data gives positive signs versus the previous year. Where do visitors come from? On the left side, searches, and Germany, United Kingdom, and are the top two in the list and remain stable versus previous year. And the only one making it to the top 10 that was not there last year is Turkey. If we look to the right, top 10 origin markets traveling to Southern and Mediterranean Europe, we have the top three, let's say, very stable, all the countries up to the number 8, and then we see a slight change at the end. So Spain, United States, Italy, and Germany remain top 4, and Greece is the only one making it to the top 10 list that was not there last year. Then, which origin markets are growing really fast versus previous year? On the left, searches. So you see China, Saudi Arabia, Republic of Korea, Poland, India, Hungary. Those are the highest growing origin markets. And on the right, top 10 origin markets traveling with the highest growth. So we see Poland, Republic of Korea, Denmark with the highest growth. What type of visitors are traveling to Southern and Mediterranean Europe? So in here, the highest share of passengers, 25% of them booked their trips between 61 and 180 days in advance. This indicates a strong preference for early planning during this period. And the 46 to 65 age group leads bookings across all Southern Mediterranean destinations, especially Barcelona, highlighting mature travelers as a key market. Hotel occupancy, what we see here is that the average is around 60%, a bit up or a bit down. And the best performing markets here are Spain and Turkey, even though since February it's going a bit below. And then we have below the average, but crossing the lines here and there are Italy and Portugal. If we look at average daily rate, the average is around $250 with 2 key countries above, with Spain and Portugal, and then a bit below we have, oh no, sorry, Spain is below, Italy is above. So Italy is above the average on average daily rate, and Spain is below, and the one that is performing even lower is Turkey. Still, the average daily rate for Turkey is above $150. If we look into Western Europe, so air passengers volume up to April over the last 12 months grew by 5% year over year, and the forecast looking ahead, it's very close to the previous year. Where do visitors come from? On the left, top origin markets searching for travel to Western Europe. We have the top 3 list. It's United States, United Kingdom, and Spain. The list is very stable. Only China and Brazil are making it to the top 10 list that were not there the previous year. If we look into the top 10 origin markets traveling to Western Europe, in here we see that the top 10 list is very stable. It's the same countries as the previous year with a couple of changes at the end. United States, France, Germany, United Kingdom topping the list. So are these travelers in your scope? So here you have the highest growth origin markets on the left in terms of searches. You see China, Japan, and India again topping the list, followed by Norway, Poland, and Republic of Korea. If we go to actual origin markets traveling to Western Europe with the highest growth, Japan is #1, followed by Tunisia, Egypt, Denmark, and Lebanon. So what type of visitors travel to Western Europe? Advanced bookings. So between 2 to 6 months ahead are the bookings normally made and have grown year over year, showing a clear shift toward early travel planning. And the 46 to 65 age group consistently leads bookings across Western Europe's top destinations. In terms of hotel occupancy and on the books, what we observe here is that the average is around the 60 and 70%, with the Netherlands performing above the average and above the rest of the countries, followed by France and Germany. If we looked at average daily rate, the average stands around 200, a bit below $250, with Switzerland and France above the average, and Germany and Netherlands slightly below the average. So until here, all the factual data that I had to share with you. I hope you found it interesting, but I always, together with the team, prefer to reserve a good gift for you at the very end. So by scanning this code, you will access a link that we have also put in the chat for you to request an ad hoc report for your destination, being it a country or a city. We will be pleased to serve you with a specific and ad hoc data so you can get a taste of the flavor of the Amadeus Travel Intelligence reports. And this is it so far for Dula and team. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Veronica, for these insights, for the presentation of so much data. I think it's always fascinating when listening to you and the insights that you have, and especially always strikes me very much the ones who are searching for the destinations and the ones that are going in the end there. And also with the hotel occupancy rates and the average rates that they have to see where you stand each country or the regions, sub-regions of Europe. I think it is important information, especially we in Europe need to have this data at hand for our planning ahead, planning now, but also planning ahead. We are growing with this growth, challenges are coming. We need to transform, we need to be more responsible, more sustainable, and these insights are a very important tool and a very important basis in order to do all these necessary changes and the preparedness that comes with this. I'm opening the floor to eventual questions that participants might have. Again, I wish to remind everyone that we have recorded, or we are recording this session. Everything will be put online. But as Veronica and Michelle are now present here, maybe you want to ask questions. I don't see the participants. This is something where I need Nodar now to help me. Then also we have this in the question and answer button. You have the opportunity to ask questions. Then Michelle and Nodar are putting in the chat also
we don't have
links.
any questions from participants. No, in the Q&A session nor the chat, so feel free to ask questions.
To raise the hand also. Nodar, I don't see participants, so but maybe Nodar, if there's any hand raised or anything in the chat, please feel free to do so. It's great having you on board with us. We are very happy about this. I also know, Veronica, right, that the next session or the next update will be done later a year. So all this data is going to be updated, and you always can reach also out to Veronica or to us. She showed us the QR code where you can access more data. You always can reach out, obviously, to Amadeus for your own destination, whatever level it is, country.
The link for the
or-
QR and the full report have also been shared in the chat,
Mhm.
so the participants can access them.
Mhm. Nice. Thank you so much for that, Norar.
I
If there
also
are no
shared the
questions,
links there, the Cordula, to the
Mhm.
Tourism data dashboard, and also to the World Tourism Barometer, where you can find all the information. Just to let you know that the next issue of the World Tourism Barometer is scheduled for September.
September. Mhm. So next parameter is coming out in September.
After
Nice.
summer,
Very
fresh.
Mhm. From the press, yeah. Okay, cool. Ladies and gentlemen, if there are no questions, then I suggest we finish and we thank Michelle and Veronica for sharing with us their data. We are thanking you, the participants, for taking time for being with us today. We hope you find this useful. We will share it with you if information is needed. Here we are. Our door is wide open for whatever you need in order to ensure that you are well informed at all stages, and whatever you need, please count on us. With this, ladies and gentlemen, have a lovely day. Have a lovely summer. We are in contact with you. And take good care of yourself, enjoy summer, and also rest a little bit in this time now. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, Veronica,
Bye.
Cordula, Nodar, bye-bye, Vitor.
Michelle, Nodar, thank you.
Bye, everyone.